Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Low Season Traveller Insider Guides. And this week we're super excited to be talking about Israel in the low season months, as we're joined by Sharon Bershadsky, who's the director of the Israel Government Tourist Office based in London. Now, Israel is a destination which I've always wanted to experience for myself, but for some reason or other have never got around to actually visiting it. I was therefore keen to speak with Sharon to learn more about what the experience is like for visitors to Israel and learn more about this fascinating country which has an incredibly rich culture and heritage. I can tell you this much, Sharon won me over purely on the part of the conversation about hummus. Enjoy. So, Sharon, you're most welcome to the Low Season Traveller Insider Guides podcast. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And we're very excited to have you. Now, is this your first podcast officially?
No, but it's the first podcast this year.
First podcast this year. So we have that honor. We have that honor at least.
Yes.
Very good. So we are going to be talking today all about the wonderful destination that is Israel. And I mentioned to you before off air, but just for our listeners, it's a country I'm embarrassed to say I still have never yet been to Israel myself. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about Israel, especially in the low season months with you today. But I suppose, first of all, just give us a little bit of an overview to Israel from a tourism perspective. Where is Israel? For those that have been lost on the other side of the planet, where exactly is Israel located?
So Israel is a tiny country in the Middle East. We have, I'll start my marketing pitch. We have 4 seas, as we like to say. We have the Med Sea, the Red Sea in the south, the Dead Sea, and the Sea of Galilee, which is not really a sea, but that's the name, so it works well. In the north, we have Lebanon and Syria. In the south, Egypt. I think you get the picture. So we're a small country. Someone just a couple of days ago told me you can fit Israel inside Wales.
Oh, really?
That's a great way to think about it, how small we are.
Yeah.
But maybe I haven't been to Wales, to be honest. That's a shame, but I heard about the great scenery over there. But I think what makes Israel unique is, although it's a very, very small country, the scenery really, really changed in the south, in the center, in the north, and the activities, things to do, and the people you meet also varied very, very, very much. So it's a tiny country, but lots to do, lots to see. And yeah, I think that's it. That's a good intro, don't you think?
That's a very good introduction. It seems to me that for such a small country, and I had no idea that it would fit into the size of Wales. That really does give a good, clear picture as to the size, actually. But I had no idea at the sheer variety of landscapes and surroundings in Israel. For some reason, I had in my sort of head that it was all pretty much the same. And actually, through looking at the pictures on our website and of course the brilliant Go Israel website, there's an astounding variety of landscapes to Israel, which I just had no idea about. If we sort of start off, I suppose, let's start off, why not, in Tel Aviv. Talk us through a little bit about, first of all, Tel Aviv. It seems to me to be quite, I'm sort of almost hesitant to say it, Sharon. Is it kind of a really cool place for party, for kind of a fun kind of time? That's what it feels like it is.
Yeah, it is. Well, maybe I'm a bit too old to say like the coolest place to party. I have 2 small children, so
that's okay. You can still get away with it, Sharon.
Right person to ask. No, I'm joking, but it is such a fun place to be and to hang around. Like you don't need to be like a party animal to enjoy Tel Aviv. First of all, you have the beach. So you have, you can grab a beer, sit on a beach, and look at on the sunset. I think like that's the most brilliant thing you can do in Tel Aviv. Usually, like 95% of the time, the weather is good enough so you can sit with your swimsuit over there. There's also huge amount of restaurants you can choose from, and I'm living in London, and I think the food in London is good. There's food from all over the world, and you can always find something nice. But I think the difference is when you walk around Tel Aviv, there's a very high chance that wherever you find yourself, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fresh. It's gonna be full with vegetables. And it's gonna be pretty good. It doesn't have to be high end. We have high end restaurants. It can be a market stall. It can be street food. It can be just whatever you can imagine. It's gonna be good. Israelis love their food. We love it fresh. We love loads of vegetables. And it's very important to us. So as being like a big city of Tel Aviv, obviously you can imagine you're going to find a lot of really good restaurants, fit for any pocket. So this is another thing for foodies and vegetarians and vegans also. This is like the place to go. I think Tel Aviv was voted one of the most friendliest vegan city in the world. And what else? You have lots of museums and culture, obviously, in the city. And like you said before, it is a city for partying. Lots of pubs, lots of bars, lots of clubs. A lot of big cities, when you walk in the street after 10, 11-ish, things starting to calm down. Not in Tel Aviv. Usually, I remember when I was young, we used to go out around 10, 11, to be honest.
God.
If you went earlier, you were like not really cool. So things are open until 3 a.m., 4 a.m., sometimes even later than that or earlier, depends, how you look at that. And people like to party. People like to go to fitness facilities in the street, like next to playgrounds and fitness facilities. You have it all over the cities, and you see like shirtless men just like hang around and do some fitness next to the beach, and like just after finish partying or just before going to work, depend what hour you look, people walk their dog. There's so many dogs in Tel Aviv.
Really?
People like to ride on bicycles. They love to be active and be out there and enjoy life. That's what describes Tel Aviv. And I'm talking to you just a few days before the party of the year, which is the Pride Parade at the beginning of June. It's going to be massive this year. Actually, they waited to, there was a parade last year, but they couldn't host international guests. So this year they're very looking forward to host everyone from around the globe to march, to be there, to party, to have fun. And this is a city that is very welcoming to the LGBT plus community, all of Israel, but I think Tel Aviv the most, because you can find a lot of the community members just living there. That's Tel Aviv in a nutshell, I guess.
It sounds fabulous. I was recently in Rio at an event, and we sort of did a podcast on it. And I had one day in Rio, and I was remarking that there's something about a city that's by the sea, somewhere that's warm. There's something very, very cool and easygoing almost about cities that are by the sea. It's the same I feel the same in Valencia and Barcelona and these kind of places.
I think people feel a bit more, I don't know if relaxed or less formal. I remember I used to work in the olden days, like maybe 2009. And I used to work in a hostel, like a youth hostel or tourist hostel, just next to the beach, 5 minutes from the beach. I used to finish my shift. I had a swimsuit in my bag, change, walk 3 minutes, and just going to the beach and have my coffee over there. Something very relaxed, because almost like from every corner you can reach the beach pretty easy and just relax and enjoy. And it's nice. It's not like a whole big deal now. We have to pack, we have to this, we have to change. Pretty easy going. I can go to the beach and have fun. Pretty easy.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about these kind of places. I think certainly for me, I just love to go to Tel Aviv, spend a couple of days, and just ease myself into the vibe. Just try and live, almost live like a local. There's a lot of talk about that these days, about trying to live like a local, and it's sort of combined with slow tourism. But I think for me, going to Tel Aviv, I'd just like to spend 2 days just to be in Tel Aviv, and eat in some of these lovely places, and sample some of the food. And when you were talking about food, look, I absolutely adore my food. What I'm not familiar with though is what are the main kinds of food that people should try when they go to Tel Aviv and to Israel?
That's a really unfair question.
Really? There's too much.
There's too much. I can share a bit of my favorite. First of all, I think you and I talked about it. You must try the hummus. Oh, yeah. Okay. So hummus is not a thing you usually go and buy from M&S or wherever. It's like a little pot and it's cold and you spread it on bread or whatever. You can do it. It's fine. It's okay. I'm not disrespecting, anything. But hummus for me and for many other Israelis is life itself. Hummus is life. Wow. Hummus, you go to a hummus restaurant or a place that specializes in hummus, and you see big pots of the chickpeas or the hummus boiling, down the kitchen over there. And people come to eat fresh, hot hummus. Usually you top it up with like fresh onion. Sometimes if you're in diet, you don't have to dip it like with a pita. Like the pita in a hummus, you can dip fresh onion in it, and it's working pretty nicely actually. Adds to the spiciness. Some people like to put hard-boiled eggs, some sauce. Like you can do different things on it. Obviously falafel, but you come to eat with your friends Friday afternoon. Fresh hummus from the pot. You share table with stranger. The waitress shouting on you, "Yalla, finish quickly," because his new customers want to get in. And it's all part of the nice, welcoming atmosphere. Me personally, I love Abu Hassan in Jaffa. It's one of my favorite places to eat hummus in the whole Israel. But there's like the hummus war fight. Where is the best hummus you can get? Like everyone has its own favorite. And the minute the pot finished, they make another one or they shut the restaurant, because you can't come in and get a non-fresh hummus. You won't eat it. You won't pay for it. And so this is the number one recommendation. I love sabich. Sabich it's like you take a pita, you stuff it with hummus, hard-boiled egg, fried aubergine, salad, some pickles, some spicy stuff, amba, and you have everything delicious in one nice, fluffy, warm pita. Oh, yeah. I love to eat it in a restaurant. I love the name Hakosem, the magicians, also in Tel Aviv. But there's again many great places that make sabich. He have pink lemonade in his place. So I love to eat my sabich with my pink lemonade. It's very Instagrammy, if you think about it. But it's just so delicious. There's always a queue there, by the way. Always. That's a sign of a good place. Yeah. There's always a queue because the things always will be fresh because you have new customers. So sabich, also one of my favorite. There's a lot of trendy, hip restaurants of like up and coming new chefs in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem mainly, but not necessarily. A few in Haifa as well, in the big cities, but not necessarily only there. I think the story of really good food and really great chefs in Israel, starting like in their grandmothers, if you think about it. Yeah. So a lot of local communities, but also I'm a third generation, so my grandmother came to Israel from Poland, but some grandmothers came from Iraq or Morocco or Yemen, or like all kind of places. and maybe their children and their grandchildren. At the beginning, they say, we're Israelis, leave us alone from this tradition. We don't want to hear about your tradition or where you grew up. Like, we're Israelis. That's the new, that's the up and coming country. We want to know Hebrew. We want to eat hummus. Leave us alone. And then slowly, those, grandchildren became chefs. And they say, where do you learn how to become a chef? You go to Italy and to France, right, to learn cuisine, and maybe some people went to China. But then they came back and they opened restaurants and they started to make great food, yeah. But somewhere they felt like something is missing. And then they combined a couple of elements. So with when year passed, they started to combine the techniques they learned in Italy and France, their grandmother heritage, that this is the thing they felt is missing the most. And when you read interviews with Israeli chefs, they will tell you, almost everyone, I came back to the pots and pans, of my grandmother's kitchen, what she taught me when I was a child, and I was ashamed maybe when I was little, and using local ingredients. What grows in Israel, what's fresh, the vegetables, the cherry tomato, the za'atar, the spices, the ras el hanout, whatever is local. And this is what really, I feel, making the Israeli cuisine and the Israeli chef to be such a success story. If you see Israeli chefs are opening restaurants in London, in New York, in Berlin, almost everywhere. And I know my favorite places to eat Israeli food here in London, but I think this is one of the unique stories. A lot of people say, well, Israeli food is like this, is a bit like that. You have no unique food. It's not about the actual ingredients. It's like there's always an argument about pasta. Is it Chinese? Is it Italian? It doesn't really matter. It's about the people, the atmosphere, the stories, the way of preparation, how you eat it, who you eat it with. And that's what makes Israeli food so good from my point of view.
There's a ritual, isn't there? Food, going back millennia, there's a ritual to food and to eating together, and it's that literally and metaphorically breaking bread, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what
by the way what we do on the Shabbat dinner. We sit around the table with our families and we're breaking the challah bread. Each one take with it. We don't cut it with a knife. That would be a silly thing to do. We cut it with our hands, and we're sharing and we're breaking and we're sharing this holy bread. This is part of the ritual. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think food and meals, I think in different parts of the world, it is linked with almost like a ritual, but it's something that we've sort of seen again and again from a lot of our clients as they travel. They say that they want to eat the local food, but they want to eat it with local people. They want to. It's sort of combined all sort of together. Eating the local food with the local people, getting to know the stories and everything else while they're enjoying the food, and I guess drink comes into that as well.
Don't let me start even talking about the wine. There's different wine regions of Israel. Now I'm sorry, I'm confused because of the podcast situation. I don't remember the 6 or 7 different wine regions in Israel, from the up north to the desert. So wine from the desert, it is real and it's delicious. You have wineries in the Jerusalem mountains, in the Sharon area. You have all over the country, and it tastes different because we talked about the scenery. So the landscape, but also the soil, the ground is different. So you have different wine from different regions, different people grow the wine, and it tastes different and it looks different, and it's absolutely a pleasure to discover that, because you think Israeli wine, I don't know, kosher wine, and you're not sure exactly what to think. But this is the up and coming, I think, things to say about Israel, because some people don't know Israel, and coming back will come back to the same familiar things to do or stuff to eat, but wine is like the undiscovered story, I guess, at the moment.
Is wine tourism starting to become popular now for Israel?
It is, but I think it's only the beginning. We have so much more to say and to show here, a lot more.
Yeah, that's really good. But certainly an up and coming wine destination, because a lot of people again like to travel. They want to experience the wine culture. And see the different the different wines and experience the different wines and the vineyards and everything else, and understanding the climatic differences. That sort of leads me on to that point when you were talking about the different wines and the different wine regions. Again, for the uninformed, and I include myself as well as maybe some of our listeners, what's broadly the climate? Are there different climatic zones? I know it's a small country. Are there different climatic zones within Israel?
Yeah, there is. So maybe 1 month a year. We talked about the variety of things you can do. Maybe one month and a half a year, you can actually ski in Israel in one specific mountain, Mount Hermon, up in the Golan area. You have the desert, so the desert climate also very, very different, obviously, to what you get up in the north while skiing. Tel Aviv you get a bit more rain during the winter season, so maybe January, February, and March, not more than that. You get more rain than other places. In Eilat, down south where the Red Sea is next to Egypt and Jordan, it's hot and dry, and it's like the perfect winter destination that you can get. It's like really always sunny there, sometimes too sunny in August, for example. So it's very different. It all depends where you go and what timing of the year you're going.
Yeah, fair play. Let's move on now to we'll move away from Tel Aviv, and let's move on to Jerusalem. Jerusalem, I confess, I don't know a huge amount about Jerusalem. I know of bits and pieces from Bible studies, but tell us a little bit about Jerusalem and what Jerusalem has to offer for the uninitiated.
First of all, I think it's important because we moved from Tel Aviv, so you can drive from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in 40-45 minutes. You can take a train, then even less than that. So I think we had we still have campaigns about the two cities, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. There's a reason. It's not only the largest cities in Israel that have so many things to do, and they're actually less than 1 hour apart, which is incredible, because if you're looking for a city break, you can get cities breaks. In like three nights, you can experience, like 4 days, you can experience both cities pretty nicely, actually. So this is about the distance. Jerusalem, for me, I lived 7 years in Jerusalem. I studied in uni over there. And then I stayed. And for me, it's one of the most magical places in the world, honestly. You said about Bible studies before. So first of all, obviously, people from all religions, all walk of life can tell you, oh, this is the Holy Land. Doesn't matter if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, if you're Muslim, you have a place in Jerusalem. But even if you're secular and not necessarily believe in God, when you walk down like the old city of Jerusalem, down the street, you feel something in your heart. You feel something magical going. I don't know if it connects you to your ancestors or to the stories you heard when you were a little boy, or just there's something in the air, which is, I don't know how to describe it other than magic. And you touch the stones and you meet the people in the old city market. And there's something very, very unique. Sorry for not finding the right words, I guess, but
I suppose it's one of those. How can you? I've spoken to people who've been to Jerusalem and the Holy Land, and they struggle. So they say, really, you have to go. You have to go at least once in your lifetime. You have to visit it for yourself. But they've told me that even people that weren't necessarily religious, they were saying, I felt moved. I felt Jerusalem.
Yeah, because you understand, oh, this is, again, it doesn't have to be religious, it can be history or archaeology. It's like, oh, this is where Goliath and the David, like just outside Jerusalem, fought, and oh, this is where David did this, and this is where this war happened, and this is where, you know, the temple, you know, so many stories behind. This is where, you know, Jesus walked down the with the cross. You know, there's so many untold stories over there that everyone can relate. And I think about the beyond the old city of Jerusalem. At the end of the day, it's a big city. It's a mixed city. You can find, again, like religious, you can find people from all walks of life over there. Great restaurant, great nightlife. You don't know about it, like you don't think about it, but when I was a student, the Machne Yehuda market, so the main food market of Jerusalem, became really up and coming nightlife place to go. The stores were shut, and then all of the pubs and bars will get their chairs aside and put loud music, and people dance around the market. That's what we love. We love to do. You finish your shopping, go dancing. And it's not too far away. It's like an hour and a half drive to the Dead Sea outside of Jerusalem, or to the winery, the vineyards we talked about before, around on the mountains that surround Jerusalem. So there's a lot to the city in addition to the holiness and the, you know, and the old part of it. But obviously people will go to Jerusalem mainly because of this, but you can expect a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. We're I'm really conscious of time, and we're starting to run out of time. But what I wanted to
warn you, I'm going to talk a lot.
No, but that's good. But that's good. Hey, listen, we can always do another episode, you know, again in a couple of weeks or a couple of months' time. But before we do go, what kind of experiences would you recommend if we were to go? You know, because, you know, Israel isn't far from the UK. It really isn't. It's not that far at all, and it's more accessible than ever. We've got flights now with, we've got EasyJet, we've got El Al. Who else have we got?
BA, Virgin.
Okay, so we've got plenty of choice of flights. Is Israel the kind of place that, obviously, you know, we know that we can go for a week or 2 weeks. Is it the kind of place that we could go for, say, 3 nights?
So definitely, as I said before, you can find a great boutique hotel in Tel Aviv, go to the beach for 1 day, do a day tour to Jerusalem the other day, and the final day go to the Dead Sea, float in the Dead Sea, and climb Masada and see the whole view of the surrounding area. So you can do that. You can just hang out, like you told me before, you want to do in Tel Aviv. You can take a train to Acre and explore the Crusaders' history. And the tunnels of the Knights Halls, and eat great seafood over there. You can take a ride 1.5 hours to the desert and do explore the desert by jeep, and come back and, you know, dine and dance in Tel Aviv same night. So there's a lot you can do, and everything is very reachable. And by the way, you talked about that the UK is not too far away. Yeah, it's 4.5 hours. In the good old days, pre-COVID, we had 70 flights a week. Now it's a bit less, but it will, you know, it's still quite a lot, and it will bounce back very soon. So there's a lot of option to how to plan your journey. Like you said, you can do 10 days, 1 week, 3 nights. It doesn't really matter. There's something for everyone, lots of experiences, lots of different communities. We didn't touch this part, but you can visit the Druze, or in the north, or the Bedouin in the south, the Baha'i gardens that you can see in Akko and in Haifa, ultra Jewish Orthodox, Muslim, Christian, secular, LGBTQ communities. We're not, you know, everyone are the same. We're very different, but that's what's nice and interesting while exploring Israel.
I absolutely love that. Sharon, we have sadly reached the end for today. We're going to have to do another episode, because I want to get more under the skin of the cultural heritage and more about the people as well. So we're going to have to do another episode. But in the meantime, between now and then, I want to try and get over myself for maybe 3 nights, like you said. I mean, you built up a great picture of what can be done in 3 days there. So I think that might be my first port of call before then embarking on something a little bit longer. But I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your experiences with us today. You've certainly whetted my appetite, and I'm sure there's an awful lot of our listeners out there who will be itching to get over to Israel themselves as well in the coming months. But for now, Sharon, thank you so much for your time. It was really lovely speaking with you.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and you see the smile on my face. It's like the smile that's saying I'm missing home a bit.
Thanks a million, Sharon.
Toda rabba. Thank you.
So there you have it. Have you ever visited Israel in the low season months? Do you have any particular recommendations which we should know about, especially hummus hangouts? Let us know your top tips by dropping us a line at jed@lowseasontraveler.com. And if you'd like to know more about Israel in the low season months, then please do visit our website and check out the Israel page for more excellent recommendations from our friends at Israel Tourism. We're currently working on issue 2 of the Low Season Traveller magazine, and we're looking for your low season stories. Have you had any amazing experiences whilst visiting destinations during their low seasons? Perhaps you've had an amazing local interaction which would not have been possible in the busy peak season periods. Let us know your story by dropping us a line at editor@lowseasontraveler.com, and you may well find yourself in the next edition of Low Season Traveller magazine. But that's our show for this week. Thanks as always for your company, and if you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean the absolute world to us if you could leave us a positive review on your podcast app. We know there are 50,000 of you out there all over the world enjoying these podcasts, and it would really seriously make our day if you left us a good review. Think of it as your good deed for the day, where you're truly making a small team of passionate people really happy. So have a great week wherever you are. Stay healthy, stay safe, keep your travel dreams alive, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn to be the first to hear our latest low season stories and guides. Finally, remember that travel is always better and fairer for the planet, the local communities, and you the travellers when it's without the crowds.